My intention was to learn more about the Ramayana, but I got something very different.
Here we are, alone together. What matter whether we wandered far?
Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and it's only been quite recently that I heard about this little but very special movie for the first time. Animation has always been a big passion of mine, and it was on one of my videos about animation that a new subscriber mentioned the title SITA Sings the Blues. When I looked it up, I was very surprised to find out that it's actually available completely for free for everybody. You can watch it on YouTube or visit the official page sitasingstheblues.com. SITA Sings the Blues is a 2008 American animated musical romantic comedy drama that was written and directed by Nina Paley. More than that, it was also produced, animated, designed and edited by her as well. Of course there were a lot of other talented people involved, but you could definitely call this a one-woman show. Now, I said it was written by her, but it's also based on the epic Indian tale Ramayana. And before I continue, I should maybe warn you that SITA Sings the Blues has the potential to anger a lot of people. In no way was it intended to offend religious sentiments, but whenever you do depict stuff like that, stuff that many people consider holy, in, let's say, a rather unconventional way, you can bet that some people will get offended. And for a second I was considering not to do this review, but I honestly don't want to limit what I'm talking about on this channel at all. And I've also seen a lot of positive remarks from religious people as well. It's important to know that SITA Sings the Blues isn't really a full-fledged adaptation of the Ramayana. I mean, how could it really be? The Ramayana is one of the largest ancient epics in world literature. Instead, SITA Sings the Blues takes parts of it and mixes them in a very unique and deeply original way with other elements. On the movie poster it is proclaimed as the greatest breakup story ever told. And with filmmaker Nina Paley behind all of its creation, you can bet that it's a very personal film. And indeed, an important part of it is taken directly from the director's own life. You might even say that SITA Sings the Blues is Nina Paley's wonderfully creative and probably cathartic way to deal with her own breakup and connecting her or one's own life and experiences with the tales and the art that came before, in this case thousands of years before. But it's not just the Ramayana, the tale of Lord Ram and his wife Sita, retold in a light-hearted but also quite feminist perspective that focuses on Sita and her struggle. Nina Paley also uses the songs of the American jazz singer Annette Hanshaw from the first third of the 20th century. She uses this big Indian epic and combines it with American jazz music. Hence also the title, of course, SITA Sings the Blues. It's a wild combination and it doesn't stop there. You can break down the movie, which is only about 80 minutes long, into 4 alternating narratives that blend into one another, of which each also has its own unique animation style. And before I go into them, it must be mentioned that the animation of SITA Sings the Blues has a wonderfully odd and original quality, but it can also be quite rough, and of course it is always obvious that this was all done digitally. Apart from some exceptions, the entire film was animated just by Nina Paley herself. Which is pretty nuts. You also shouldn't expect a very immersive experience with this one. With the varying animation styles and also kind of the Greek, or in this case Indian chorus, there are a lot of elements that point to the filmmaking and storytelling themselves. Now, coming back to the 4 stylistic and narrative levels, there is the clear autobiographical narrative that shows us a modern couple from the US. The husband accepts the offer of a 6-month contract working in India and moves there alone. And yada yada yada, he isn't treating his wife very nicely and he ultimately breaks her heart and breaks up with her. These parts are animated with the so-called squiggle vision technique, a computer animation that emulates the effect of sketchily hand-drawn animation, which could be seen as a way to emphasize the restlessness of the woman left behind, who, like I said, is the filmmaker Nina Paley herself. Another level contains of 3 silhouettes, traditional Indian shadow puppets, that are voiced by Asim Chabra, Bhavana Nagulapalli and Manish Acharya. The 3 of them are trying to recap the events of the Ramayana. There's a very immediate feeling to the discussion, and it might even be unscripted. They are trying to break it down, add their own understandings and see if they can get it right. This whole segment points to the importance and also fascinating progress of carrying on tales from the past and how those stories are still relevant and influencing us and our experiences today. It also jokingly points to the circumstance that it's probably not that important to take every word as a fact, or rather that it's also quite impossible because there are usually a lot of contradictions and different traditions involved. The third level depicts episodes from the Ramayana that are enacted using painted figures that strongly resemble the 18th century Indian tradition of Rajput painting. There's only very limited motion in these parts, and I have to be honest, the thing that worked at least for me in SITA Sings the Blues is easily some of its humor. I like the approach to mix these ancient stories with some contemporary jokes and a certain lightheartedness, but a lot of the humor also felt rather crude and forced and it just wasn't really my cup of tea. The parts that I easily enjoyed the most are the musical episodes from the Ramayana. These are the segments that features the songs by Annette Hanshaw, with Sita performing them, and also animation that brought a big smile to my face, which once again creates this big contrast between these old rusty sounding recordings from the 1930s I guess, and this super clean modern vector graphic computer animation. It's fun to watch, especially that almost hypnotizing way Sita's hip is moving like a pendulum. Now, of course the songs weren't written for the movie, they are almost 100 years old. Yet they fit in quite beautifully, and that's of course also the point and the beauty of SITA Sings the Blues. To use art, songs from the past, tales from a country that's on the other side of the globe, speaking from an American perspective, and creating something new, something that has meaning, that is personal and yet universal. Rearrange these different elements and art styles to tell a new story or tell a story in a different way. And in this case, make a case for a strong woman who goes through a lot and learns to stand on her own. And by putting the movie up for free for everybody to watch it, Nina Paley of course underlines this approach of how to perceive art and stories and how to adapt them and continue in their traditions and how to create something new from the old. Because art always reflects on and incorporates what came before. Nina Paley is a strong critic of copyright and she openly urges everybody to distribute, copy, share, archive and show SITA Sings the Blues. If you want to, the best way is to visit her homepage sitasingstheblues.com. I wasn't completely taken away by all of its elements and it honestly took me a while to get on board with the way the story is told, but given that it was more or less a one-woman show, it's of course still very impressive. So in German I'd say, SITA Sings the Blues ist ein unglaublich origineller und wirklich ziemlich verrückter Animationsfilm, der auf einzigartige Weise den indischen Ramayana und melancholisch-schöne Jazzlieder zu etwas ganz Neuem kreiert. I give SITA Sings the Blues 7 out of 10. It's more like 7.4, but I don't do that. Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about SITA Sings the Blues. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd and also on Patreon simply at the Jimmy Cage. You can now also become a member of the channel and get exclusive rewards. And last but certainly not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.